2022 Bills schedule. Read it and weep, baby. It is out. So much to get excited about, so much to discuss and digest. Maddy, Glab, and Bills legend Steve Tasker alongside you to break it all down. Schedule Instant Reaction is brought to you by Ellicott Development, an official hotel partner of the Buffalo Bills. 5, I will say this again, 5 primetime games, people. 2 Monday night games, 1 Sunday night, and 3 Thursday games. If you count Thanksgiving, one of those is also the opener. You know what this schedule screams to me, Steve? Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. The Buffalo Bills have finally got it. What's your quick reaction based on the schedule?
They start with 2 primetime games, a Thursday night game, then they go the next Monday night game. They've got that one. Then there's a 4:25 game against Kansas City. 4:25 games are standalone game. They go to 75% of the country. It's a big game. That's also a sign of that. Sunday night football then against Green Bay, Week 8. Thanksgiving Day in Detroit, 12:30. The Bills will kick off the entire weekend of games, or the entire weekend of games for the Thanksgiving weekend in Detroit. So they're the first go there. They start the season, they start Thanksgiving. The next week, they go from Thursday Thanksgiving to Thursday night football the next week against New England. Interesting note here, I don't know what New England's schedule is. I haven't seen it yet. New England might have a game on Sunday and have a short week where the Bills have a full week of preparation. It might be. I don't know that it'll work that way. It's probably doesn't sound fair to New England, but we here don't care.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility there. Miami's to be determined. New England's to be determined in Week 15s and Week 18s, respectively. And, of course, Christmas Eve in your hometown, Chicago.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Can I get on that trip, please?
Yeah, there you go. And then, of course, they end the season. And this was a nice move. I hadn't thought about this. Cincinnati Bengals, a team that's supposed to be pretty good, and they were in the Super Bowl last year, might have some big games down the stretch. The Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati to take them on Monday Night Football in Week 17.
All right, well, let's break it all down. We'll start first with the kickoff game. So the Bills open the NFL season against the Super Bowl defending champs, the LA Rams, Thursday, September 8th at 8:20. Can the Bills take down the defending champs? Will Von Miller dominate against his former team? How about Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Matt Stafford? Who combines for the most passing and receiving yards? So many individual matchups within this one that are going to be really exciting to watch. So, Steve, what do we think about the Bills drawing the NFL opener?
Well,
this is big time.
It is big time. Plus, you're taking on the world champions. Von Miller's going to be in this game against the guys he just won a world championship with. He was only there for a half a year, or last third of the year, plus the playoffs. Aaron Donald is there. This Ram team, with much the same cast of characters, came to Buffalo in 2020, and the Bills beat them. It was the last-second pass to Tyler Kroft over the top. Josh Allen hit. That was a game when nobody knew who the Bills were or what they were going to be, and they turned out into a 13-3 squad that year, and the Rams found out why. So they might have something up their sleeve for them. But you know, they added offensive guard Logan Bruss in the draft from Wisconsin. Cornerback Jacoby Durant from South Carolina State. So
they didn't have any first-round picks. Their first pick was in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I think the league has passed a rule that the Rams will never have a first-round pick again because they keep trading away. But they lost Sony Michel, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods, Andrew Whitworth retired, Von Miller, of course, and Johnny Hecker, the punter. Those people who left. Now, they got some guys in. Allen Robinson, the wide receiver from the Bears, offensive tackle Joe Notaboom, and center Brian Allen. So they lost. It seems like a net loss.
Yeah, it'll be a good matchup, though. It'll be competitive for sure because they still have a lot of big weapons on that roster. As we dive into our primetime games, we already said it, 5 primetime games. The Bills open the season with back-to-back primetime games. Then have one in Week 8, Week 13, Week 17. So it's nice and spaced out there after we get out of the first 2 weeks. But gotta say, Thanksgiving Day game and also a Christmas Eve game, as you already mentioned, Steve. So 2 holiday games there for the Buffalo Bills. They've played on Thanksgiving in 3 out of the last 4 seasons. Now, if you count this season, back-to-back years. Against the Saints last year, that was a win. Now they've got the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day at 12:30. The nice tie-in there with Ralph Wilson. He is from Detroit, so it'll be exciting to play Detroit there on Thanksgiving. And then the Bears for Christmas Eve. There was a chance the Bills could have played on Christmas, but you know what? We'll just wrap it up and give you a nice little present. Away game for the Bills. You can enjoy your Christmas Eve, watch it from the couch, and then also enjoy your Christmas. But let's jump into the other primetime games. The Titans, Week 2, Monday Night Football, 7:15 is your kickoff time. We already knew this one because it was one of the games that was released a little bit earlier, but this is the 5th year in a row the Buffalo Bills are going to play the Tennessee Titans. The series is split 2-2, but the Buffalo Bills have lost the last 2. So can they finally stop a guy like Derrick Henry and the Titans' run game? What will the Titans look like without A.J. Brown as a part of their roster? Do you think the Bills can get the better of the Titans in this one?
Well, certainly at least this time they get to do it in Buffalo rather than in Tennessee. The Bills have been going to Tennessee for 4 straight years, it feels like.
Yeah.
And finally the Tennessee Titans have to come to Buffalo. We'll see if that makes the big difference. This is going to be a little bit different Tennessee Titan team, as you mentioned, than we've seen before. And remember, too, last year the Bills, it was a pouring down rain. The Bills were going to go in and win that game, and because of the rain, Josh Allen slips on a quarterback sneak and goes down. The game's over. So these are 2 really good football teams.
They've been intense games. Crazy things have happened in these games.
It was intense. They've been intense games. Remember, this is a game that Duke Johnson for the Bills caught the winning touchdown pass in his only appearance for the Bills. So, yeah, there's a lot in this. These 2 teams are getting to know each other during the regular season. And the Bills have a chance to play the team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs a year ago.
People forget about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into Week 8 against the Green Bay Packers. Sunday Night Football at Highmark Stadium, October 20th, 8:20 kick. So the Bills will be coming off of their bye week, hopefully rested and healthy for this one. The last time the Bills played against the Packers was in 2018 when they lost 22-0. It was during Josh Allen's rookie season, and my, oh my, has Josh Allen grown since that game. Will the MVP Aaron Rodgers still play like an MVP without Devontae Adams? Is it time for Rodgers to pass the torch to a young star like Josh Allen? What are your thoughts about the midseason placement of this one?
This is star driven. I think it's we talked about this on the show, Maddie, that it's hard to get a really heated rivalry or a heated matchup between an NFC team and an AFC team, out of division, out of conference. These teams, like you said, they haven't seen each other since 2018. Much different squads now than they were then. But this is, Aaron Rodgers was the MVP in 2020. Josh Allen was the runner-up, and Aaron Rodgers repeats last year with Josh Allen having maybe ending the season as playing his best football of his career. There's a lot in this, particularly at this end of the schedule. Now, certainly everything can change 8 weeks into the season, but this is a game that is all about Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen facing off in Buffalo on Sunday night.
And then we move into Week 13, Thursday Night Football against the Patriots. So November is the only month the Bills won't play a primetime game. After Week 8, they'll have another in Week 13 in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. December 1st is your date for that one. Kickoff is at 8:15, and the Bills have played the Patriots 3 times last year, including the playoffs. They won 2 of those 3 games, but the last time Buffalo played the Patriots was their perfect game on offense in the playoffs there. So we're hoping that they can carry that energy into this matchup as well. And the Patriots did lose some defensive pieces there through free agency, drafted an offensive guard in the first round, a little bit of questionable draft pick according to some people. We'll see if it pans out. So I think they still have a question mark about what they're going to look like this season, how competitive they might be, because they didn't really do as much work in free agency this year compared to what they did last year. So, Steve, once again, we don't see the Patriots till December. I mean, what is this with the schedule makers and them keeping the Patriots in the final 6 weeks of the season for us?
Yeah, it's strange. They did it again this year. Last year, remember, it's only 2 weeks or 3 weeks between games.
2 weeks between.
And it was weird. and what a difference the 2 weeks, 3 weeks made. This is interesting because what we said earlier, the Patriots might be coming off a short week. The Bills will be coming off a normal week. That's a big advantage for the Buffalo Bills, even though they will be playing in New England. Thursday night football, and it'll be the first time we get a chance to see the New England Patriots this season, and it'll be in Week 13, late in the year. It's you kind of get, I don't know, if the Patriots are going to
I get a little bit nervous about these
the
late
Patriots,
season
it almost seems like the
Patriots
are asking for that.
Yeah.
You know, said don't give us the Bills until
but
late in the season.
But it's at the end when we have it all figured out and we can be competitive.
Because there have been years when we played them in the first 3 weeks of the season, for sure, and opened up with them. So the interesting thing about this is how the Patriot schedule will mesh with the Bills' schedule for this Thursday night game, and who's going to have a short week and who will not.
We're not sure about that, but the Bills will have their final primetime game of the regular season in Week 17 against the Bengals, who were the red-hot team of the AFC last season. Cincinnati made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year because of their young stars, and I really like this matchup because the offenses are a lot of fun to watch. A lot of youth on both teams, a lot of fun wide receivers to watch, fun quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. And the Bengals really added to their offensive line in free agency so that Joe Burrow is not getting sacked 5 times a game. But who knows, with this new and retooled defensive line that the Buffalo Bills have in Von Miller as well, I think he's going to have a day going after Joe Burrow. So what are your thoughts on these two powerhouses playing each other the second to the last week of the regular season?
Well, this is calculated by the schedule makers in the league. They want these two guys going into the playoffs. They want this to be a playoff kind of atmosphere, and hopefully for both these teams, and certainly for the Bills, this may be for home field. You get a team like the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals coming back after that year they just had, wanting to do even better this year, and the Bills having designs on the number 1 seed. This could be for it. Week 17, who wins this game is going to take the lead in the race for the number 1 seed. Conceivably happen, and certainly this is a lot like a younger version of the Rodgers-Allen matchup in Week 8 on Monday Night Football. This one, Joe Burrow and Josh Allen again, is a star-driven league, and both these clubs have a lot of firepower and a lot of weapons on the outside, and it comes down to the big guys up front as to whether they keep Joe Burrow clean and can Josh Allen run around and stay clean himself? These quarterbacks, we knew this. The AFC has a ton of really good quarterbacks, and these are 2 of them, and that's what's driving this game. Yeah, 2
swaggy quarterbacks going after each other in Week 17. So those are the primetime games. Let's move on to the AFC East games where those are slated. When Buffalo is going to play the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. So the Bills draw their first divisional opponent in Week 3 as they'll head to Miami to face the Dolphins in the September heat. Then they'll be away against the Jets in Week 9 on November 6th in Foxborough for Week 13 for Thursday Night Football. They'll host the Jets in December for Week 14. Then the next week, they'll host the Dolphins for a cold December game. And they'll finish off the season against the Patriots in Week 18. That game is to be determined on day and time. Only 1 division opponent before the bye week and 3 in December and January. So the games that are really important, the games that usually end up mattering when it comes to winning your division and where you might be in terms of playoff rankings, are stacked at the end of the season there. So this could be a good or a bad thing for the Buffalo Bills. So where do you sit on how this is kind of organized?
Yeah, out of the first 6 weeks all the way up until the bye, Week 7, you have 1 division game. Now you're going to get a chance to get your feet under you. If you come back and you play Green Bay on Sunday Night Football, then you got the Jets in New York. Then the stretch it's at New England, at the Jets, at home against Miami in weeks 13, 14, and 15, respectively. You got 3 division games in a row. Then you've got 2 road games, including the Monday night game. And then you've got New England at home to end the season. 4 out of your last 6 games are the AFC East.
The games that matter.
Yeah, the games that matter.
Right at the end of the season.
The games that matter are
Have
at the end
fun,
of the season.
Buffalo.
Yeah, you get one division game in the first 6 games. It's Miami, and then
A
the rest of
little
them.
tune-up.
Yeah, then the rest of them are all the way at the end of the season. So it's going to be an interesting stretch there in week 13, 14, and 15 with the Jets Miami, with the Patriots, the Jets, and Miami coming up week after week after week.
And another quick thing I want to add there about how it's all organized with the AFC East. The AFC East is made up of a couple teams that still have question marks about them, right? The Jets had an incredible draft. They've had a lot of high draft picks over the last couple years. Newer coaching staff. Can they figure it out this season? By the time that we face them, they're in week 9 and week 14, will they be at a better place then than they were at maybe in the first half of the season? What about the Miami Dolphins with all the star power that they added to their offense this offseason? What are they going to look like? We'll see them in week 15 for the second time. And then, of course, the Patriots, like we talked about, those 2 games in December and then in January. Are the Patriots going to have their stuff together by
Right.
December? You never know with Bill Belichick. But what's left over there then for quote-unquote big opponents that are left over? Maybe we didn't think would not be a primetime game, but it is a 4:25 game. So left over, we've got the Chiefs and the Ravens. So the Bills will head to Kansas City the week before their bye. It's a week 6 game at 4:25 on October 16th. Buffalo actually played the Chiefs in week 6 in 2021. And then week 5 last year, the Bills won that game 38-20. But the schedule gurus like to put this game earlier in the season there, almost after a couple weeks of tune-up. And then here we'll throw the Chiefs at you. I mean, it's going to be a rematch of one of the best games of the last few seasons, maybe of all time. I'm talking about that playoff game. So can the Bills finally get the best of the Chiefs again in the regular season? No Tyreek Hill. They lost a couple other wide receiver and defensive players there, but Patrick Mahomes is still their quarterback, and that's why you can't count out the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's why it's a 4:25 game. It's almost 100% of the country will be watching. It'll be kind of a standalone game, and yeah, everybody wants to see that game. You knew it would be at a time slot where everybody could get a chance to see it, and certainly that's the case. Week 5 or week 6, yeah, that's a little surprising to me. Not so much, though, now that I really think about it. The Chiefs, and if you haven't been keeping track of them, they've got Juju Smith-Schuster now from the Steelers, Orlando Brown. They tagged after getting him in a trade from Baltimore. Justin Reed, the safety from the Texans. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So those are guys that came to them as free agents. They drafted cornerback Trent McDuffie. They jumped up to get McDuffie. George Karlaftis out of Purdue, the defensive endman. Sky Moore, the Western Michigan kid, who everybody's very high on.
Interesting draft picks.
Yes, and another safety, Brian Cook. Their secondary was not strong last year. But they lost running back Jerick McKinnon, Tyreek Hill, of course, Byron Pringle, the wide receiver, another wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson. Melvin Ingram's gone, Charvarius Ward, and Tyrann Mathieu, and Daniel Sorensen. All 3 of those last guys are gone. Starters in their defensive backfield. It's going to be some new
defensive pieces who will be competing for starting spots there. So maybe a couple question marks there in Kansas City with what they're going to add to this roster, what it's going to look like, if it's going to be ready to go by week 6. Hey, we want to tell you that the 2022 season tickets are still available. Become an official Buffalo Bills season ticket member and never miss a second of the action. So make sure you go grab those tickets and get your seats today, people.
Yeah, you've got a Monday night game at home, Pittsburgh at home. Yeah, only 2 games in the first month and a half of the season are at home, and then you've got Green Bay, the third one you've got. So 2 of the first 3 home games are primetime games. A Monday night game against Tennessee, and, of course, the Green Bay Sunday night football game on October 30th.
All right, and to break it all down, we wanted to bring on somebody who knows the schedule best. It's somebody who decides where the games are going to be, decides where they're placed. So we're going to bring on Blake Jones, the NFL Senior Director of Broadcasting, with us to help us kind of go through where the Bills are playing some of their toughest opponents and why they're playing them right there. All right, Blake, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of digest this schedule with us. Man, when it first came out, we were excited to see the Buffalo Bills have 5 primetime games. I mean, it makes sense, too. There's some great opponents that the Bills are going to get to play against throughout the entire season, but I've got to hit you first with the opening game of the NFL season against the Super Bowl defending champs, the LA Rams. Why did you think Buffalo was a good fit for that Week 1 game to open up the 2022 season?
Well, as everybody knows, that first game of the season is a huge deal for obviously that Super Bowl champion coming off a great year, but for the NFL overall. We want to start things off on a great moment, great matchup, and we want the whole country to be excited about the NFL season starting up. As we looked at it, there were a handful of opponents that we considered, but it was pretty clear as we got further down the line that we were going to be really excited to see the Bills in that matchup kick everything off for the entire league coming off of a great year last year.
How difficult has it been to add the extra regular season game in?
It's interesting for sure. It adds another set of matchups that are based off of where every team ended up last season. So in one sense, it gives us more inventory to work with, more games, more matchups. And it's exciting to see how those ones versus ones kind of play out and where they can get placed and where we can really showcase some of those great matchups this year.
So you are one of 6 people who gets to decide what the NFL schedule is going to look like. One of the great minds behind trying to schedule 272 games across 18 weeks. Are you guys making changes or making decisions really leading up to that 8 o'clock time, or do you guys kind of have it set a day before? How much of the back and forth do you have really until you're like, all right, it's got to be final because this goes live at 8 o'clock on Thursday night?
Well, there's actually a lot that goes into being done and ready to share this out. There's the process of notifying all the teams, obviously, so they're prepared for that announcement, notifying our network partners. But really, it was up until the middle of this week where our team was meeting with the commissioner, reviewing what we were ready to present as our final schedule, making sure everybody was ready to lock everything in and be ready to move forward with sharing that information out to the teams and our partners to be ready for tonight's announcement. So a lot of work since that decision was made in a very short amount of time, getting everything ready, double checking, triple checking all of our paperwork so that we've got everything right. But we were considering some last minute adjustments all the way up through Monday and Tuesday of this week.
Wow.
Well, Blake, last one from me. I know that the clubs are not shy about making requests about certain scheduling quirks, and they run the gamut. So what is the most unreasonable request you've ever gotten that you just said, get away from us, we can't do that?
Well, there aren't any specific ones that necessarily stick out, but one that we do get a lot when teams have multiple games against teams in, say, Florida. They don't normally play Florida teams as an opponent. They'll say, well, we really think those games should be at the end of the season. December would work well. It just wouldn't really fit well for us in September when we all know it can easily be, painfully hot in Florida for some of those northern teams to come in there early in the year, and it can be a nice little break in December. You get some of those requests, or you get certain requests around other things that are going on in some cities that have nothing to do with football. Some of them are legitimate, where you have a baseball team that shares not only a stadium, which we don't really have anymore, but a lot of them will share parking areas, tailgating areas, strains on the local parking and law enforcement and public health and safety. Those are legit and those are realistic. It's some of the other ones that we kind of say, okay, thanks for letting us know, and you kind of move on.
Yeah, a lot more to
Right.
decide than just what that NFL team wants. There's a lot of the behind the scenes things that you guys probably have to organize and figure out. But 5 primetime games for the Buffalo Bills. They'll be playing on Christmas Eve and on Thanksgiving. When you were deciding who was going to get however many primetime games or who would be here and there, whether it be week 2, week 1, week 8, how did you decide on 5 primetime games for the Buffalo Bills?
Well, it starts by identifying who those teams are that we think the fans are really going to want to see. The Bills obviously are one of those teams this season, having grown year after year over the past several years as far as appeal, not only in the New York area, in the Northeast, or in other parts of the country. Like, really, they've become a national draw. Part of it is that amazing playoff game. Unfortunately, ended their season last year, but it was one of those that people are saying is arguably the greatest playoff game of all time. So you've got that as sort of the final feeling that we have for the Bills coming out of last season. We want to see, one, how they're going to respond to that. We do think they're a great team that's going to be one of the top teams across the league this year. And we know that fans are going to want to see them and want to see how they're going to be this year. And so you take that and you understand how many times they can be on prime time across how many partners, similarly to teams wanting their preferences around when games are played. We have partners that say, man, we'd really love to get some Bills games this year. We really want to bring them to our audience. And so we try to identify ways that we can evenly distribute great teams across our partners in order to maximize what the fans are looking for and ultimately provide a great lineup of NFL games across the entire season.
Blake, we are fans of it. We like how everything's placed and slated, excited about the first game and the second game. It'll be a tough stretch there for Buffalo in the first 6 weeks of the season, but I think they're up for the test. We appreciate you coming on the show and helping us kind of run through this schedule and talk about a little bit of the behind the scenes as to what goes into creating such a big schedule that spans across 18 weeks. So, Blake, thank you so much. You deserve a break now.
Thanks, Blake.
On to the next project. Thanks so much for having me.
That was Blake Jones from the NFL. He's the Senior Director of Broadcasting. A lot went into scheduling 272 games. I cannot believe the task that they probably had to do, the 6 people in the room trying to figure out who's going to go here, who's going to go where. Do we have two teams playing 2 games in the same week? I'm sure it was like putting together the biggest puzzle that you could ever imagine, trying to figure all of that out. But hey, I like how the Bills fall within the schedule. We love the 5 primetime games, obviously, but if we look big picture here and we kind of digest how this schedule looks, the first thing that jumps off the page to me is, wow, the beginning of the season is going to be a tough stretch for the Bills. Really, the first 7 games, including that bye week in there, you have the Rams, the Titans, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Packers in the first 7 games of the NFL season.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That's really a rough set of games. Packers, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens.
No time to get ready.
Titans, Rams.
Thrown in the fire.
Yeah, that's really rough. Those are the, you talk about the teams that you kind of think, wow, they're going to be a problem. The Steelers came in on opening day last year and beat the Bills. We expect them to be better than that this year. The Rams, of course, the world champions. The Titans were the 1 seed in the AFC playoffs last year. I mean, of course, the Chiefs and the Packers at the end of it. I mean, it's to start the season, the Bills are going to run a gauntlet.
They're going to have to be the real deal from the get-go in week 1.
Right out of the gate.
And week 1 last year served a little bit of humble pie against the Steelers.
Yeah, they did.
So we'll see how the Bills attack those first 7 games against some really, really talented opponents there. And then you get in the middle of the season, you're like, okay, all right, we can do this. No big deal. Got some good games here, got some good games there. And then you get into the end of the season, and they'll have kind of a little tough stretch there in the final 3 weeks of the season. Bengals, Patriots, the final 2 weeks of the season. How are they going to look heading into the playoffs? Are those games going to matter there at the end of the season? You never know with playoff seeding for the AFC. But starting the season tough, ending the season tough. What about road stretches there for Buffalo?
Yeah, you've got 3 sets of back-to-back road games. The Dolphins on the road and the Ravens in weeks 3 and 4. Then you go all the way over to the Lions and then the Patriots. Those are 2 Thursday games. The Lions on Thursday, Thanksgiving, and then the Patriots the next Thursday on Thursday Night Football in New England. And then at the end, week 16 and 17, the Bears and the Bengals both on the road. So it's interesting that works that way. Of course, they have 9 away games, 8 home games. That's the way it works for the AFC this year. And certainly it seems like everywhere you look, there's at the Rams, at Dolphins, at Ravens, at Chiefs, at Jets, at Lions, at Patriots, at Bears, at Bengals. There's a lot of away games on that schedule.
Their bye week is a Week 7 bye, so a little bit earlier there in the season. Similar bye week to last year as well. But I do like how they kind of have some of those baked-in extra days off there, playing on Thanksgiving, playing on Thursday night against the Patriots, playing on Monday night. You're going to get a couple days off there that would normally be practice days for this team. So hopefully mini bye weeks is what we like to call them. Hopefully enough time for this team to heal up toward the end of the season and make sure they're ready to go for those final couple games and the playoffs. All right, we know the opponents. We know when we're playing the opponents. So what do we think about a little record prediction here, Steve Tasker?
I will say regular season, 13-4.
13-4.
And they'll have a shot at the 1 seed. It's a long season. They're going to drop some games to some teams that are playing well or play well against us, but consistently the Bills have always been – McDermott has done a great job with a number of things. There's so much you have to do as a head coach, but their player development has been outstanding. The guys who come in here as young projects get better fast. And 2, they've played consistent. Even when they were just trying to get it together. In his first season, when people said they had a roster that was – they were tanking, right? They go to the playoffs with that roster. They play consistent. They play near the top level of their abilities almost every week. Last year, you can say, maybe the Jacksonville game, they didn't. And certainly the Indianapolis Colts had a chip on their shoulder when they came to Buffalo last year. But it wasn't because the Bills were necessarily playing bad. The Colts really lit them up. Mm-hmm. So for all of those things, the Bills do play at a consistently high level throughout the regular season, and that's one of the things that's been a hallmark of Sean McDermott's crew here. So the young players are going to get better, and this is a team that's going to play pretty consistently throughout the season. So I'm thinking they're going to be pretty good.
It's time. It is time for this team. They have been together for multiple seasons. They know each other. They have that chemistry. They're going to grow again. The defense is going to get better. The offense is going to get better because of the guys that have stayed on this team and the players that they have added to this team. It's all going to mix and mesh together, I think, beautifully. I think our draft picks are also going to play a part on this year's team. Kyer Elam, James Cook, I am so excited to see how they kind of fit into what Buffalo is doing. That's why I've got to say 14-3 is my schedule record prediction there for the Buffalo Bills based on the schedule that is finally now available for us to see. I think they're going to win a couple big games, but I think there's going to be a few games that they drop, maybe some tough opponents that they can't beat, maybe some games that they won't be as healthy for. We never know what the health of this team is going to look like as you go through an 18-week schedule. Some guys are going to be available, some guys won't. You never know.
Sometimes you get a bad bounce or you lose a coin flip. So, we'll see. But I'm with you. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I'm pretty sure that the people who broadcast these games think they're going to be pretty worth watching as well.
Yeah, Blake told us. ABC, NBC, ESPN, CBS, they were asking for Bills games. That's a fun thing to hear as somebody who covers the team. It's a fun thing to hear for fans who love watching the Buffalo Bills. 5 primetime games, back-to-back primetime games to start off the season. Just throwing Buffalo right into the gauntlet. Let's see what they can do here in the 2022 NFL season. Thanks for joining us here on our instant reaction of the NFL schedule release brought to you by Ellicott Development. 2022 season tickets are still available, people. Become an official Buffalo Bills season ticket member and never miss a second of the action. For Steve Tasker, I'm Maddy Glab. We'll catch you back here for rookie minicamp and OTAs coverage all on BuffaloBills.com.